Rated T for teen.
My name is Dan McClure, and I'm lead level designer here at Mad Doc. I get to review and help design from the ground up what the single player experience is going to be like for Empire Earth 2 and the expansion pack. During my typical day, I'll review other designers' works as well as my own for play balancing and to make sure all the systems are working the way we want them to, and just to help make sure that the fun factor is as fun as we can make it.
My name's Matthew Nordhaus, and I'm a lead designer at Mad Doc. My job is to oversee all of the aspects of the game design. So we start with basic paper prototyping and writing dev features, and we move into writing specifications for the programmers to work on, and playing a lot of the game and trying things out, and eventually we start to try to balance it and make sure the unit strengths are accurate, and we have a lot of fun. For multiplayer, we played a game every single day, and every day we made changes and we tested the changes the next day. And those changes could be as little as changing the stats of a single unit, or they could be a complete rewrite of a system. Like, I know we went through several revisions of Tug of War before we felt like the movement from map to map, it was a fun thing to do.
A lot of special things that go into the single-player campaign that you don't find in the multiplayer, and so there are literally hundreds of different ways to break every scenario that we can design. And of course, we try to do that, and the testers try to do that, and so you end up playing a scenario to make sure that it's broken. And we did a lot of that in multiplayer as well.
Oh, there were a lot of cases where someone would find an exploit and something that wasn't balanced and then use it mercilessly against everyone else that day. And that's the most fun, of course, when you do it against Ian, because then he really likes to win the multiplayer games each day. RPS is a shorthand for saying rock, paper, scissors, meaning every unit has other units which it is very susceptible to, and it has units it's very good against. So you can't always build a unit and guarantee a win. If you build an archer and they're susceptible to swordsmen, you're going to lose. But if you build an archer that's good against pikemen, you're going to win. And so you have to really scout out the enemy and build an appropriate unit to take him out.
Yeah, we tried from the beginning to make a very streamlined kind of RPS system where it was fairly obvious what unit beat what unit. And in a lot of balancing iterations, we found that it wasn't always as simple as we had hoped it was going to be. With a game that has the scope of Empire Earth 2, and especially now with the expansion pack, with so many units and so many civilizations, there were a lot of balancing iterations that we had to go through. It was not just the actual RPS relationship, but it was also we had to factor in things like what a unit would cost and what its range would be and how quickly it would reload its weapon.
Even things like animation speed and whether it packed or unpacked before it had to fire really made a big difference in how it actually played on the battlefield. We did have an auto balancer, which would basically generate units and send them into battle automatically, and we would run that overnight. And that can give you some good data, but it's never as good as 2 people playing or 4 people playing or 8 people playing, which is sort of a much more visceral, like, gut level check on what's going right and what's going wrong.
Asymmetrical resources was an idea that the player could start on what's essentially an unbalanced map. Your home territory is perfectly balanced. Everyone gets the same kind of start, but as you push out into the world, some territories will have resources that are incredibly valuable, and some territories won't have anything at all. And it's just a randomizing kind of element, so that you'll never really know quite what to expect. So it has a very interesting strategic element in that it creates certain territories that are very, very valuable and become something that is very fiercely fought over in a game, and that's very exciting. But it also has the frustration that you could end up next to a couple territories that are just worthless to you. And however, though, it leads you to acquire resources in other ways. So you'll end up trading with other people in the game to get access to resources that they may have an abundance of and that you have none of, but you might have something that they hadn't encountered at all, just because the neutral territories aren't balanced. So it worked out to create some very interesting multiplayer situations.
The diplomacy stuff is really interesting. It ends up being a very rich sort of gameplay element, especially with fealty added. There are a lot of things you can do with the other players besides being at war with them or having an alliance. You can tribute, and you can give provinces back and forth, and you can order your vassal to go attack someone with his entire army, and he can obey you or not, but that's at his peril. It's interesting because you don't have to eliminate someone. In other words, it keeps people in the game longer, and rather than squander their buildings and resources and units, you can actually use them to your own advantage.
I have certainly been in the situation many times where I've been on the verge of being knocked out of a game. But now with fealty, I have the option of saying, okay, well, I'm done. I'm not going to win this game, but I'm having a good time. I want to keep playing. So I've become a permanent ally of someone, and now it becomes a little bit more of a team game.
And I think it's if someone who demands fealty from you who you really dislike, you can just refuse, and then you get a temporary bonus to all your troops. So at least you can go on a short rampage and do some damage.